Walk into any Victorian townhouse today, and you'll notice something strange. Walls where rooms used to be, spaces sealed off and forgotten, features plastered over, ripped out, replaced with something worse. These weren't quirks, they were solutions, engineered for a specific life, a specific economy, a specific way of living. And they didn't disappear because they failed. They disappeared because we thought we had something better. Here are 10 British home features that quietly vanished, and exactly why. The larder was a small, cool room built on the north side of the house where sunlight never reached. Stone shelves, slate tops, no electricity required. The architecture itself was the refrigeration. Cold stone in a sunless room maintained a stable, low temperature year-round. Then, in 1923, the first affordable domestic refrigerator arrived in British homes. By the 1950s, it was standard. The larder didn't disappear because it failed. It disappeared because something more convenient solved the same problem. Larder-style pantries are now being sold as premium features in new builds. We spent 5 decades getting rid of them. Now we're paying to bring them back. The scullery was the kitchen's hidden room. Smaller, darker, always tucked behind the main cooking area. Dishes scrubbed here, vegetables prepped here, laundry soaked here. The mess of daily life stayed invisible to anyone who mattered. This was class architecture made physical. Servants worked in the scullery, families ate in the dining room. Then, open-plan design arrived in the 1970s, and the social hierarchy that required a hidden workspace collapsed with it. Kitchens became showrooms, cooking became performance. There was nothing left to hide, and no one left to hide it from. But the mess didn't disappear, we just built homes with nowhere left to put it. The coal hole is still visible on Victorian streets if you know where to look. A rectangular iron plate set flush into the pavement, directly below the front steps. Drop coal through it from street level and it falls straight into the basement bunker below. No sacks carried through the front door. No soot tracked across the hallway. No disruption to the household whatsoever. Coal heating dominated British homes right through the 1960s. When natural gas arrived and central heating became standard, the coal hole lost its purpose overnight. They were sealed over and forgotten. But walk down any Victorian terrace in London or Manchester today and the plates are still there, flush with the stone. The ghost of a heating system that once kept entire cities warm. Picture rails were never decorative. A narrow wooden molding running around the room just below the ceiling line, fitted with hooks and wires to hang paintings without a single nail in the plaster beneath. Victorians rearranged constantly. Paintings moved with seasons, with fashions, with the arrival of guests. The rail made every wall reconfigurable without damage. Then the cheap steel picture hook arrived. One nail, done. The rail became redundant almost overnight. Except it solved something the hook never could. A wall you could change without committing to it permanently. Modern renters who can't touch their walls without losing their deposit are rediscovering them now, not out of nostalgia, because they work. Sash windows look complicated. 2 panes sliding vertically, counterweighted by lead sash weights hidden inside the wall cavity. Expensive to manufacture, required skilled craftsmen to fit. So why did they dominate Victorian housing from the cheapest terrace to the grandest townhouse? Thermodynamics. Open the top sash and hot air escapes near the ceiling where heat naturally collects. Open the bottom and cooler air enters at floor level. You could manage airflow with a precision that a modern window on a single hinge cannot match. Double glazing solved heat loss but traded away ventilation control entirely in the process. Sash windows are returning in conservation areas, not just because of heritage rules, but because builders are realizing the Victorians weren't making them complicated, they were making them intelligent. The airing cupboard was a tall, narrow cabinet built beside the boiler, warm and dry by design. Linen stored here, damp clothes dried overnight without going outside. The heat cost nothing because the boiler was already running regardless. Then tumble dryers arrived and the airing cupboard looked like a relic, except a family running a tumble dryer 3 times a week spends over £200 a year on electricity to do exactly what the airing cupboard did for free. Some house builders are now marketing dedicated drying zones adjacent to the boiler as a modern energy-saving innovation. It is an airing cupboard with a different name. The front parlor was a formal room at the front of the house, kept closed, rarely heated, reserved for guests and Christmas and occasions that required performance. The family lived in the back. This was not wasted space. It was deliberate calculation. Heating an entire Victorian house was expensive. You kept the parlor cold to save fuel and lived where the stove already burned. But the parlor was also a status signal visible from the street. It told the neighborhood you could afford a room you didn't need. When central heating made every room equally warm, there was no longer any reason to maintain a space you entered 12 times a year. Open plan took over. But nothing replaced what the parlor actually solved, a space for formality that didn't bleed into everything else. The morning room sat behind the parlor, smaller, warmer, actually lived in. This was where the family spent the day, children doing homework, letters being written, hours being passed. Not performance, just life. It concentrated warmth and people in one manageable room because heating an entire house was wasteful and cold. Central heating made the whole house equally livable, and the morning room disappeared with the problem it solved. The family spread out. Rooms became isolated. Now architects are charging a premium for snugs and reading rooms and cozy dens. They are morning rooms, renamed for a generation that forgot where the idea came from. The pantry went far beyond food. A Victorian home often had several running in parallel: a buttery pantry for crockery, a china pantry for the good plates, a plate rack built directly into the wall for everyday ceramics. Separate categories of things in dedicated spaces. Everything always had a home. Then the open kitchen arrived, and storage became a problem of cabinetry and drawer organizers rather than rooms. We gained sightlines and lost the system. Pantry-style storage is now one of the most requested features in new builds. We dissolved something that worked, spent 30 years replacing it with things that didn't, and are now rebuilding it inside the kitchen at significant cost. The servant's bell was a brass fitting mounted near the fireplace, connected by wires running through the walls to every major room in the house. Push it, and a bell rang in the servants' quarters. Communication without moving, without shouting, without leaving the room. It vanished not because it failed, but because the world it was built for was deliberately dismantled. You cannot use a servant's bell without servants. But the problem it solved never went away. Modern homes are installing intercoms and smart speakers in every room to do precisely what the bell did in 1880. The solution is new. The problem is identical. These features did not disappear because they were badly designed. They vanished because the problems they solved appeared to stop existing. Refrigeration made the larder look unnecessary. Central heating dissolved the morning room. Class collapse made the scullery an embarrassment. Natural gas sealed the coal hole for good. Each trade made sense at the time, but every new solution quietly created a new problem. Open kitchens are always on show. Tumble dryers drain hundreds of pounds a year. Double glazing kills airflow. Homes with no formal room blur every boundary between private life and performance. And so, one by one, the features that vanished are being reinvented, with new materials, new names, new price tags, because the problems they solved never actually disappeared. The Victorian home was not primitive. It was optimized for a specific life. As that life shifts again, we keep arriving back at the same answers, just paying more to get there.